If you get that feeling you're living in a nightmare, we've been out of the town for a little while, and when you come back into town and you see the incredible levels of masking, it's really difficult to kind of little child getting a bit of a beating there. SAP. Let's see. I want to see if I can have a chat with someone. I don't have enough opportunity to do this, but good afternoon. Yeah, Bob. See if some guys want to have a chat. See what people think. It just feels like nothing's being done. Nothing is going to change the trajectory for people. Hey guys, how are you doing, man? I'm just making a quick video. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Trinity 4, and I go around talking to people. I won't film you unless you agree to be filmed. But you know, nowadays no one will recognize you anyway, because the government make you wear like a gangster, go around with all a covered face. What do you guys think about the covered face? The covering of the breath. What do you think about it? Huh? Moo. 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 What? Yeah, that's more like it. See how easy it is to frighten the flock. Flew, that's what I should have just said. I should have said flew, and they would have run. Yeah. Flew. I mean moo. Who let the cows out? I'm just here by a ruin. It's not as old as the Portuguese ones, but it's certainly reminiscent of Portugal. Old farmhouses abandoned for a variety of reasons. Now the roof caves in. But it's a beautiful little spot. Imagine if you had the means to create a community in a place like this. Have 10 structures, you know, in addition to these dotted around. It's probably, you could probably carve out, say, 5 acres or 10 acres, maybe a bit more, and do something with that. Obviously, like most things, there's a financial element. You know, bringing something like this back up to speed would be quite a project. Anyway, I've got some thoughts I wanted to share with you guys. Not quite sure where I'll start or finish, but you know, in the time-honored way, I'll just share with you my thoughts, and if you want to listen, great. I was going to try and find myself somewhere comfortable to sit. Wouldn't have to hold this thing. It's a bit of a strain on. Oh, I'll show you my arm actually. It's healing quite well. Can you see that? Scabbage. And there's a bit more there. That one keeps breaking open when I like try and do anything or lift something or whatever, stretch it. It's taking a little bit longer to heal, and if I'm not mindful, I could end up with tears that are deeper than the original scratch. But Imagine being like a bloke who needs a break away from like the craziness, and you could come here and work some trees and do stuff like that. I've said this in Portugal, haven't I? So what's the difference? Really, what the South African people though are, there's very little. There's like barely a whimper from the South African people in terms of the encroaching tyranny. It's everywhere to be seen, but there are pockets of awakening. So I'm not going to be all doom and gloom. I just wonder whether I shouldn't actually be helping to start something, you know. But I'm better in like a team. I'm not like a one-man kind of guy. I don't have all the skills or the energy for all the elements of it. So I'm still, you know, looking for that that right wind. But we do not know what's coming. And there's apparently 5 luminaries in retrograde, according to Andrea and her researchers. People who take more account of the sky than me. And there's a 6th one coming into retrograde early next month. And this is apparently a time for remembering, repairing, returning, all the re's apparently, all the regrounding. But you know, it's not hard. You have to be pretty sort of head under the duvet not to see that, you know, even those people who went along with 2020 stuff are finding that their mechanisms for getting life back are not bearing the fruit that they'd been promised it would. Some of them are going to continue believing the promises that are still coming, and others will be saying, heck no. And we're seeing a bit of that. How much of it is steered? Someone referred me to Russell Brand, the 33 guy, to something that he put out recently, you know, haven't lambasting the establishment, but I didn't listen to it. Andrea listened to a bit of it, and she said, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, there's some stuff that's good there, but there's a lot missing, you know. There's a lot of, almost like once you've built the straw man, you can have sub straw men which people then can, you don't mind, they can hack at that all day long, you know. Look at our Russell Brand, he's one of us, you know, for the people. It's for the people. It's for the people. But I mean, I haven't listened to his thing, so I can't really go on about it. But I think just from what Andrea said to me, I'd say that there's a heck load missing that I would really like to say to him, hey, why are you not talking about this? Because that's what a lot of the arguments are. I mean, and people are even squabbling over which is the best dead entity corporation to get your latest fix from. You know, we've become a society of needle pushers and drug addicts, really. But it's okay because it came from a guy in a white lab coat, fully doctorinated by at least 7 years on top of the usual 12 years of stupendous mind control. Here's one, you know, I said to Alexander the other day, I said, he asked me there was something in the pantry that he hadn't seen before, and clearly I hadn't seen it before either, because he asked me what it was, and I looked at it and I said, I think that's a tenderizer for meat. You know, looking at the sort of the top of it, it turns out no, it's a chipper for potatoes. But now he keeps saying that it's the tenderizer. He keeps calling it the tenderizer, which is what I mistakenly first called it. You know, so yeah, it's very interesting how easy it is to get someone to say that black is blue, particularly when you start young. And of course, the young today are being beaten black and blue by bullshit. Excuse my outburst. But it is really a little hard to contain yourself when you see how the children are being traumatized so small. Whew. I know that the 1940s children lived through trauma of a pretty brutal kind, and I've seen pictures. I don't know how commonplace it was of children wearing the most frightening apparatus. There's that phrase that I've heard in certain religious sects. Suffer the children, bring them unto me, something like that. Suffer the little children and to bring them unto me, and bring them unto me, something along those lines. And I've heard many times in my early encounters with the system. But I think that now that means if you cause suffering, then that will bring them unto me. And just so you know, I mean, sometimes when I think of that suffering, I realize that, without a modicum of suffering, we perhaps don't learn what we have to learn. Would that be fair to say? And sometimes I think, those lovely Freemasons. Maybe what they know is that the deal with God is in ways that you must experience suffering in order to have come to this part of the ride, this dark age. If you go to the fun fair, then you need to kind of go on the big one to experience the adrenaline, to experience the thrill, But there is another fun fair down the road, and in maybe in 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, we're looking back, if we care to, and we'll know that we went through that painful dark age for the experience afterwards. You go on the more gentle ride, and it's more loving, the ride of love, or whatever it's called, in water. You know what I mean. So I don't want to come across as though it's like, oh, buggery. They are just such bad people. I think that they are. There's a psychopathy going on. Anyone who feels he needs to communize someone else's free aspiration, then they are in part mildly sadistic and somewhat psychotic, or psychopathic rather. That's really unfortunately that. I mean, obviously there are people who just get, that's your job. If you don't do it, you're out of the job. And some will do it because they must. Some will become, pretty aggressive in insisting that. So, so it is psychotic. But at the same time, if we are God, or if we are God's son, then there is this kind of divine essence that's like, okay, well, you guys are going to go and suffer, or you're going to experience this suffering in order to come to something else. Because let's be honest, this is the bottom line, is that the reason the world is in such a pickle is because we are consenting. We as the collective are consenting. We've been seduced by money. Everyone says, oh, it's all about money. No, it's not. That's just a little tool of seduction. That's just like the little pink panties, Maybe not even at the panty level, even before that. So, yeah, that's a perfume. That's just a seduction, just to get you in the door and get you paying and get you participating. No, it's not about that. It's far more about, the essence of our creator essence, and how, or that we have been seduced cajoled, tricked, whatever, into the giving away of that authority. There is only one authority here. That's you. And every time you give that away, it's no longer you. And unfortunately, you're not giving it away to like a, if say like you came to me and said, okay, I'm going to leave my ego at the door, and I'm going to receive some education or some training on, say, physical fitness or wellness or whatever, then you would you would hopefully be in the receiving of that. But because you know that my intention is pure. Now, most people think democracy is a pure intention, or it's well intentioned and so on. No, communism and democracy are both intended to leave power or put power in the aegis of a central command rather than an individual command. That's why they demonize the word anarchy, because they don't want you to be self-powerful. They don't want you to have your authority. They don't. So we have been pulled into this, drawn into it like a black hole inexorably. So, and the only way out of the black hole is actually through it, by the way. So you got to go through it, and like light, when it smashes into the black hole and returns instantly for an instantaneous nano fraction of a second to black, then immediately that black is seeking to return to white, to complete light, and it starts returning to full light speed. And I think that this is where, and we see it with the prism, don't we? How the light wants to return to full light speed. So I think this is possibly where humanity is at. And so does it mean that some lights are in the sort of red zone down below, but they will catch up? Versus the lighter colors, the indigos and the violets, perhaps they get through more quickly, and then but they still return to full light speed eventually. And this is what humanity has got itself into, is that we're in the mouth, in the maw of a black hole, and we must go through it. We must go through it. So, maybe the people that have been plotting, playing out some of the theater here, they know this, and it's like, life and death here. It doesn't, know that, they know that this is only a temporary school, place, or whatever environment. It's not like you really die. You can really die. But I guess they want to try and drag humanity through the black hole and come out the other side with some semblance of control of that, rather than divinity returning to the head of the table, sovereignty becoming the true sovereignty, and democracy. I believed in democracy, so I understand how. Look, there's 100 of us. We between us, if we employ a gardener or two and a guy to come and do the roads once a year, that would make it go along. We'd be able to spread that around. And that kind of makes sense. But then I'm not going to let the roadman come and get involved in my day-to-day affairs. He doesn't know his place if he feels he must or can. But where we are is that in the main we've gone, all right, you can do my roads, and you can tell me when I can see my wife. Had some wonderful conversations offline. It's sometimes hard to whip out the phone in the moment, and sometimes these conversations are best had without the phone, because you really don't want to get the person on the back foot. But when you're talking about facial nappies, people here are like, yeah, no, there's definitely something wrong with that. Moo, that's all it is. So that's, I just feel like there is such an appetite for that. But what you find in the usual politics is, it's just, again, sub-straw men of the primary straw man. And no one's ever looking at the primary straw man. They've constructed a dozen sub-straw men over which people can squabble. I obviously want to burn that straw man down, um, as a way to the route to the liberation of the mind. We're returning to the self, the individual, the personal authority. This is what we want: personal authority, personal accountability, and an understanding of what is our natural inheritance here. I think eventually this comes out. And we are no longer those people fighting for survival in a dog-eat-dog, shortage-driven economy. I don't know if that happens in my lifetime, and I'm not particularly invested in that. I just, because I know, like for me, my journey into my ongoing journey into self-authority, sovereignty. That journey, it could only happen because of, or was inspired by, the death of my mother, and writing, the purging of a lot of my trauma, because I got to write the book about the war time, and receiving some kind of recognition, accolade, whatever, some kind of like payback from that, if you like, having people hear and validate and verify what you went through, and you experienced. It's a great way of putting that to bed, and I think we've all been traumatized in various ways. So it's not is there anyone who's been without some form of trauma? I doubt it. But there are people with greater or lesser extents of trauma, and obviously that healing needs to occur if you're ever to complete this walk into the light. I think that seems to me to be a key theme when I think about what I see, how I see people experiencing this change in our societal construct, consciousness. So I want to, that's what I can help people with. I think is to kind of get back to think. Gosh, you must. Anyway, I was saying my story is, I get rid of some of my trauma, or a lot of my trauma, and then the DMT kind of gets rid of the rest of it in 2015, and then it's like whoa. Flat Earth says we're at the center of creation, and that puts me like right in the middle of the roundabout, and my relationship to the engine room is direct, and I never thought that before. I was never told to think that. Not even the guys who like talk against the structural religions and so on. They, will say much in the way of that. So, oh no, we say that. We say that down in our little club. Okay, great. Well, where you promoting that to the rest of the world? Because, this is what people need to know. Is if you know who you are, then you can go on this journey, and if you know what you've experienced, because trust me, your experience was designed to impede, redirect, misdirect. Your journey was designed to do that. No fault on your parents, none whatsoever. This is not about the blame game. This is about understanding that the nature of this place, whether it's designed on purpose and they're such nice people at the Freemasonry Lodge, or there is some kind of satanic, we want to own God, we want to disrespect God and so on, and demean and get His creation, or if we are God or God's perfect creation, we want to get them to debase themselves in as many ways as possible. Well, it could be any of those, either of those. I'm not. In a way, that doesn't matter, because just like what's beyond the roof, what's down below after 10 miles, we don't know, and maybe we're never meant to know. The East and West, that's another conversation. This is our plane, so maybe we're meant to do a little bit more exploring, maybe the exploration part of that. Self-exploration and physical world exploration, that's certainly been curtailed in the last few months. I can't think how they managed that. So I'm just... I'm optimistic, I think, and maybe that's the way of the moon at the moment, that it's definitely not all doom and gloom, and whatever's coming, it's all good with God. But, if you're sitting staring at the TV going, fucking what's coming, rather than like, whoa, so who am I? and what am I? And is there anything else I could be doing to improve the quality of life in the temple of God? Me? Is there anything that I could be doing? Well, try not to slip too much out of the trees, right? But in the main, get out in nature and love nature, because this is what God created. Whether you're like, God created me, second-class citizen after Jesus, or I am Jesus the Christ, or I am God in a fractal form here, whichever of those three you prefer, this was designed for you to come and enjoy this place, this beautiful, beautiful world of ours. And the birdsong and the bee, this is what we were meant to be doing, and digging and, and nurturing and knitting and, laughing and having parties together and some good sex. Yeah. Good sex and good food, I mean, it's like, you're meant to be in balance, this is Menia's thing, and all of these senses that we have, these pleasures and so on, there's nothing wrong with enjoying them. It's just when we overindulge, like our friend Mr. Gates, William Gates, who's overindulging in his pet sport of, what do they call it? When you try and wipe out lots of sheep, lots of cattle. There's a name for it, isn't there? Probably shouldn't use it in connection with the wonderful Gates. He has opened many windows on the world. But anyway, I will not belabor. I just wanted to throw some stuff and some thoughts down for you guys to share my ideas and I guess remind you of your true essence here, and then to say, can I see my eyes? Can you see my eyes? Look, how's that? Is that better? Get on and fix yourself. Because if you do not recognize, if you cannot say to yourself in the mirror, I have been damaged, and this is how I've been damaged, and this is how I have come to full completeness, or at peace with that. So many of the guys, I used to hang out with veterans from other wars, and you know how it was in the old days, son, we just put it in the chest and we never looked at it again. But we when they tell us to bend down and put a nappy on our bum, we'll do that right away. Yeah. We wouldn't want our smellies getting away from ourselves, would we now? We want to keep that to ourselves. We're good communists. No, we were fighting the communists. What am I talking about? Give me another whiskey. It's good for you. That's sorry for a dig at the veterans, because you know what, I love all people, but that's just another one group who have gone through a particularly similar form of programming and soul damaging, soul dire, they call them. I see that because I spend time with the veteran and guys who were in my squadron who were like brave at war, have become pussies. They have become pussies, and they are going along with so much of this, and it's like, oh well, what can we do? What the hell? Listen to what I'm saying. There's an awful lot we can do if we realize we are creators and we stop giving away our authority. We stop consenting to insanity being wrought upon your own family. And if you're in business, your business too. I mean, a lot of business owners who've lost their business, or business has really suffered, or they've laid off people or whatever, will probably have more issue with what's gone on, but they will not have an understanding of the machinations of the machine. And when they come to that understanding, because someone they know developed a drug habit in the last year, stabbed something in their arm and started getting convulsions and was very sick all of a sudden, then they will get right up and outraged. And then they will go into the streets and picket and boycott and throw stones and so on. And then their government, their master, their thinker, their leader will come and punish them for having the temerity to stand up and complain. And then, after another year of insanity, the current political establishment will be found to have made some egregious error And the opposition will say, well, we knew that, and we've been coming in all the time to say, no, that was the error they were making, and we're going to do something different. We are going to, now we've come up with something else now, and we'll be introducing that to help you, because we care about you more than the other guys. It's easy to get a little bit warm under the collar when thinking about that, but we should not leave it there. Stay in anger. If we're staying in anger, it's because we haven't dealt with the trauma, and the trauma is multiplicitous and complex, but often goes back to those first 7 years, as our friends over at the Vatican like to remind us. Give us the boy till 7 and I'll give you the broken man. So I say that we have to be honest, and we have to be courageous enough to say, yes, this is your trauma, actually, what's playing out now, what you'll need to go and rant and rave. I did it, so there's no judgment. I did it, and I might still get out there and get a little bit loud. I fantasize about that every now and again, but the rage at the system is misplaced. As I said at the beginning, we are the consenters, we are the creators here. We have created this, and we are going to create the rage, or the acquiescence. We're going to create all of that, and it's going to cause more tension and more infighting. Look at racism, apartheid here, for example. It just creates more and more things. And then 30 years since apartheid was kind of dismantled, the scars and the trauma is still very deep. I saw that just 2 weeks ago with the little riot outbreak. It was actually, a lot of people were affected, so I don't mean to minimize or diminish the experience for those people who suffered through that throughout. But it is an expression of rage. It is an expression of wounding, and it's very well played out in the black and white sort of storyline. But also, with the current storyline, there's the the drug users, and then those that prefer not to take drugs. Thank you very much. And that's going to become quite vociferous, and I still feel like and people are. I'm hearing reports of people getting still, all of a sudden turning up at hospital. You go that doesn't quite fit the normal trend. I have to be honest with you. Heaven forbid it has anything to do with them being super compliant with the Jabba the Hutt agenda, or the I don't mind asphyxiation club. Yes. Call it a form of bondage if you like, but actually, this little asphyxiation thing. I mean, didn't Michael Hutchins have a lot of good fun with that? Sorry, again, if you're ready to pass, I'm not meaning to diminish anything there. Just talking off the top of my head, but that's what's happening. So we see that. Surely we see that now, and I'm not wanting to bring up the ire, but really to say, hey, man, why don't we think about the quiet and going back to the still, and going back to the love, the divine, the sovereign, in a peaceful way. This is not about wanting to enrage people. This is about finding your little patch, your little way, and doing it. I have to admit, if I was, and I'm not at the moment, but being in a suburban situation, where I'm having to constantly navigate crazy sea. It is draining on the soul. You think about it. I try not to do the thing in that. But the army was in town the other day, and they were encouraging people to starve themselves of oxygen. Really good, isn't it? Anyway, I mean, I know I was in the army and I did what I was told. And most humanity now are in this communist army, and they're doing what they're told. But I still think we have time, and we have God's love, and we have our own true power if we choose to return to it, and enough people choose to return to it. We will see the new shoots of a phenomenal golden age to come. But the timeline on that is not for me to talk about, and if it's my lifetime, Alexander's lifetime, or beyond that, we have to start the work now, though. Don't you feel compelled to do something? Is it not like getting to the point where you're like, I have to? Our friends Joe and Carl are successfully building their first proper structure on their land in Portugal. They've been there a year now. A few setbacks, harsh life in a bell tent. And but they're doing it, and others are too, and others will follow. So don't get caught up in the war. Return to the love. That's what we want. We want to rebuild the house with love, not hate and fear. What we notice is recently, with the outbreak of violence here in South Africa, is that the old prejudice of fear is still very prevalent in many people's thinking. So, it behoves me to remind you that the most important thing you could do in this day and age is to love your neighbour as you love yourself. I mean, obviously the do no harm principle, but to love your neighbour as you love yourself will go a long way to assuaging future difficulties. However, I do fully understand the difficulty, totally understand the difficulty of spending your time with people who work for the government. So it is that you need to find a local community. My friend Dave over at Zoom Truth on YouTube, he has a list of about 6,000 friends, particularly flat earth related, of course, who would love to hang out with you, and I would strongly encourage you to make, because I have had a really lovely time here on this land, being around people who could hear the language that I was using. So with that said, I'm navigating my way through the field here. You can see it looks like a lot of politicians have been this way already today. Yep. Here's a mountain of political drivel about to... That's it. New legislation is being passed. What can I tell you? This is a crazy world, and it's only going to get crazier, my friends. Only going to get crazier. But fear not, because whatever comes, you never die. There is no death. You only leave this chapter behind and go back to home base for a little bit of R&R. Do you come back in some way up? Let's not get into the far unknown. Next thing you know, I'm going to start telling you that globes float on time and space. Rocks holding themselves up on time and space. Gas giants pulling together under their own weight. Well, I have to be honest, I was in a lift the other day, and I had an experience of that, actually, because I let a bit of a ripper go. There was 4 other people, against regulations, of course. There were 4 other people in the enclosed space, and I could tell it was there, but no one else seemed to notice. And that must be it, I thought. I've created a new Uranus. Well, one of the gaseous ones, you know. I mean, there it was, just floating around the back door. I thought, if I can catch that in my mask, I might be able to take it and create a new exoplanet or something. Yeah, that would be, I mean, imagine I could even go and live on it. I'll just tell my friend Elon, he's South African like me, and he'll be able to get me a little firecracker, send me up there,
I could live on my own gas giant. What a fantastic thing. Anyway, with that bombshell behind me, I think I'm going to have to call this one quits. As I said at the beginning, it's a real shame such beautiful structures languish and rot away while other people struggle to find a simple place to live. Anyway, here's what we did. I hope you enjoyed my attempt at little humour, just to lighten the mood a bit, because fuck me, this is crazy. And I've got family members and friends. People I love. They're just I have to let them go with love, and what will be, you know. And I really don't want to go, oh well, because you're not hearing what I can hear, or you're not seeing what I think, then that's all bad for you. You know, I don't buy into that school of thought. I mean, you know, in the physical thing, and you know, let's just say you hate the thought of it, but some people, one person or some people do pass on much earlier, and they leave people behind, and their life is shortened, and so on. That's, you know, we all know that that's a sad outcome. But in the spiritual realm, you know, it's a nod, it's a welcome back, and you know, well, job well done, and so on. I don't buy into the biblical version of you're doomed and so on. Does it mean possibly, these theories of course, does it mean that your soul must repeat the lesson again, must, you know, and again, that doesn't matter, wants to repeat the lesson again, because, you know, it's all in love, and it's like, come on, go and, you know, you went round the track a few times, you never managed to get up to the right speed or jump over the hoops or whatever. That's okay, take a day off, and you know, go back for another 50 years or another 80, 100 years or whatever, and try again. No big deal. Because, you know, the one thing about truth is that it can really piss you off, and that's by design. That's by design. They're like, okay, they either got you as a, you know, follow all the orders kind of person, or you're like, no, I'm against it, and I'm just so rabidly against it that I'm equally disabled by my rabidity. Is that a word? Anyway, I just think that I feel like at the moment that, and I'm in a like slightly neutral, more balanced, pH neutral kind of headspace, is that it is incumbent on us to find our way back to the love. If you don't, so what? But if you do, and the trust and the kind of connection to God and not to corporations, and the trust in that, and that if your health is failing, then it's probably got something to do with the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life, not you know, the